What's your plan? Everybody says they have a plan, but their plans aren't ever tested. Can you grow your own food? Can you produce your own meat? What are you going to do if the trucks stop rolling and stop bringing all your goodies? Can you produce those things that you buy from the store? Do you even need that stuff that you buy from the store? When the power goes out, the things that we value, the things that we think are so important, you find that you don't use any of that stuff in that life anymore. When you go to an agrarian lifestyle and you have to produce your own food and you have to clean your own water and you have to harvest everything from the earth, all that stuff that we've built our entire life around, that all goes out the window. It ceases to exist. If the power goes out tomorrow, my life actually gets better. All the fakeness, all the stuff that we go to work and we spend all this time at a place we don't like for a finite amount of money to pay people that we don't like, we don't have to do any of that shit anymore. But everything gets incredibly harder. Do you have what it takes? Have you even tested that? Have you turned the power off? Have you killed the circuit breakers? Have you gone out in the woods and just tried to camp with the bare minimum just overnight? Do you realize if you look to your left and the right now, most people have never gone to the bathroom out in the woods. They've never started a fire. They've never had to stay warm from a campfire. They've never had to plant anything and grow any food. They don't even realize that stuff coming up out of the ground in the city park and on the sidewalks, there's actually stuff there they can eat. They don't have any clue. It's never crossed their mind that they could eat one of those birds or a squirrel. It's not even in the realm of possibility for them. But you're different, right? Because you've had those conversations in your head. You've tried those things. You've actually planted something. You took a little vine that became a sweet potato. You grew a bunch more sweet potatoes from that. You took those vines and you fed them to rabbits. You took the droppings from the rabbits and you put that back into the sweet potatoes. And then the sweet potatoes seemingly did a lot better from the manure from the rabbits. You could eat those rabbits. The rabbits fertilize the potatoes. The vines from the sweet potatoes, you can actually eat those just like spinach. You just wilt them. You can also feed it to the rabbits. It's just all a big circle. But we haven't actually tested any of that. A lot of us have these theories, right? I'm going to put rabbits in a cage and they're going to drop poop into the water and the fish is going to eat that. And then we're going to grow something else in the water. We've never tested that. We just have these ideas. But we've never actually taken the time to put that together. People think they're just going to go get some chickens and start raising chickens. Where are you going to get those chickens from? Martha down the road? Maybe. How long does it take those chickens when you have those little baby chickens that come in the mail or you get them from the store? How long do you have to feed those until they actually give you an egg? How many eggs do they give you? Do you still get eggs during the winter? How warm do you have to keep them? What's the possibility something's going to eat them? Do we know? Have you tried it? What if you can't get feed from the feed store anymore? What are you going to feed those chickens? What are you going to feed those rabbits? What can you feed them? What can they eat that won't kill them? Do you know? We all have some idea. We read the books. We see the videos. We watch all the shorts. They're presented really well. They're written out and it flows and we pay attention to them for 15 seconds. Then we scroll to the next thing and scroll to the next thing. But have you ever taken those rabbits and put them in a cage on the grass? People are telling you, oh, you can just feed them on the grass. Maybe some types of grass you can. Other types of grass will actually kill them. Can you take rabbits right out of the cage and put them on the ground? You know you can't because they get bloat. You have to actually start feeding them greens for a little while before you put them on the grass. Because when you take baby bunnies and you put them straight on the grass, even if they have pelletized feed, and they start eating all that grass that tastes so good to them, they build up bloat, and you find all your bunnies the next day dead with their bellies all puffed up. That's bloat. Do you know that? They didn't tell you that in those videos where they said, hey, take your bunnies and put them on the grass. What happens when you can't get pelletized feed? What can you feed them? What is tree hay? Do we even know what tree hay is anymore? If you go back to World War II, people were doing that, right? It was a thing. It was called silage. What is silage? Silage is fermented greens, right? We take the greens and the clippings of the trees that those animals can eat, and we run them through a shredder or we pulverize them in some manner, and then we ferment them. Once they're fermented, we can put them up for up to 24 months. That's what tree hay is. It's not on anybody's radar anymore. It's too easy to go to the store and buy a 50-pound bag of feed. If we have a bunch of animals and we're just feeding them 50-pound bags of feed every week, what are you getting in return? Why are we feeding those animals? What are you getting from those rabbits that you feed a 50-pound bag of feed every week to? What are you getting from those chickens? Because if you have an animal, right, when a chicken turns 3 years old, its egg production is almost done. If you have an animal that you are feeding and it is not giving you something more in return than what you're putting into the animal, you have nothing more than a pet. It's okay to have pets. Do you want to have 100 4-year-old chicken pets that give you nothing back? When those chickens were 1 year old, out of 100 birds, you're getting close to 100 eggs on a good day. But when they're 4 years old, you're getting maybe 10 eggs out of those same 100 birds, right? So what do we do with those birds? Do you know the answer to that? We can tell you all of that. But more importantly than telling you that, we can demonstrate all of that hands-on. You will see what it takes. Can you build a fence line out here? We built a lot of fence lines. How long does the fence line stay there? How long until it rots down? We have this idea that we'll use pressure-treated wood. Pressure-treated wood's not what it used to be. So what do you do with that? How do you make creosote? What is creosote? How do you keep that pressure-treated wood that's in contact with that wet, damp soil from rotting away? What's the solution to that? Do you know? You're not going to pull that stake. You're not going to pull that pole back out of the ground and coat it in something. What if you could actually just have a hole in the middle and once a year you just poured something in the middle of that pole and now all of a sudden that pole is impervious to that water? It took something else up instead of moisture. How did Grandpa used to do that, right? We call it prepping. We got all these these fun words, prepping and homesteader and survivalist, right? We call it prepping. Grandma, she just called it Tuesday. For all of us, it's quite the accomplishment to get up at 4:30 in the morning, right? We got up at 4:30 before I see another person. The next person I'm going to see is at 7 o'clock. I've got all this time to do all these things for myself. Every farmer in the world is up before the sunlight. He has to be. That's just a normal thing for a farmer. It's just a normal thing for Grandma. You go in Grandma's closet and there's all these jars in there. What are all these? Now we learn about canning and it's some great accomplishment. Everybody used to can. It was just what we did. It's how you had to grow food. During World War II, there were newspapers and magazine articles and the people that had television. There was a whole television campaign. It is your patriotic duty to maintain a 4x8 garden and keep 3 chickens in your front yard. That was just your duty as a patriot, as a U.S. citizen. Those were victory gardens. Those were war gardens. Now you have people in towns that are calling the police on you if you have a chicken. They're calling the police if your tomatoes are too big in the front yard. Don't you want to be able to do all of those things and not rely on the systems? Do you not think that the systems are set up intentionally so that you have to rely on them? What if there were weeds on the edges or the backside of your property that you could just put in a jar for a couple weeks and take eyedroppers full of that liquid and be healthier? Or when you got a sore throat, you could just take something out of your kitchen and warm it up in some water and use that, right? Instead of some pill pack, you have to go see a doctor. And then if you have insurance, they charge your insurance 5 times more than if you just paid cash for this thing. And when you look at the ingredients, you can't even pronounce them. You can't even identify where any of the ingredients came from. But what if there was a weed in the backyard that would do the same thing, but you didn't have to go and sit amongst a bunch of sick people in an office for an hour when your appointment was at 1 o'clock, and then the doctor will see you at 3 o'clock after you've been exposed to sick people in the lobby for 2 hours, and he doesn't even talk to you for more than 2 minutes and writes and scribbles out 3 things. And now you got to go to another place and pay some money, or your insurance gets billed or whatever to get these 3 other pills. And you can't even identify what's in them. What if you could do that out of your backyard? The food we eat. Read the ingredients. When you buy a package of meat, Should it say anything other than cow? Why are there 2 or 3 other ingredients on the food that you buy? How come your bread has no nutritional value at all? We have all these diseases now. We have all these ailments. We have all these kids with all these problems. I'm 52 years old. We didn't have any of those problems when I was in school. Peanut allergies, nut allergies, those didn't exist. ADHD, that shit didn't exist. You know what the difference was? We were out in the sunlight. Teachers still smoked. So while we were out playing, they would kick us out of the classrooms and we would all go out on the playground in the sunlight while teachers were all smoking, having smoke breaks. We were outside accumulatively almost 90 minutes when I was in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. We had PE in the morning. We had a break before lunch. We had 45 minutes for lunch. And then we had a break after lunch also where we were outside on the playground, monkey ground. We also had that was recess, and then we also had PE. And in PE, you would line up and you would do dashes and relays and physical fitness tests and all this stuff. We were outside a lot. Maybe that's why we didn't have all the problems that we have now. And then when you look at the ingredients on the food that they feed your kids at school, you can't even pronounce most of the ingredients, right? Pizza was at the top of the food chain. Pizza was considered a vegetable. Pizza. Maybe that's part of the problem, right? We don't know where our food comes from. We can't pronounce our food. So we really don't know what we're being made of anymore. And we have no pressure testing, right? We've got these bodies, but we have no calluses on the hands. We don't have any hard work. We are occupied, instead of by being outside and wanting to create something, we're occupied by the phone. And that's your babysitter now, and that's your entertainment. And people don't even sit down and watch a 30-minute video or a 90-minute movie anymore. Everything is 15 seconds. It's this. We're seeing all kinds of carpal tunnels and things show up from people manipulating their phones. People have calluses in weird places on their hands from the phones. You know where people don't have calluses anymore? They don't have calluses here. When you shake hands with young people, their hands are super smooth. They've never done any physical labor. And when the time comes to do any physical labor, they physically think that it's going to kill them. What are you going to do when things get hard for you? If you're not willing to do difficult things now, when real difficulty comes, it's going to be the end of you and the people that you love. You need to lead by example, and you need to test yourself right now, every day, a little bit. Do you think you have what it takes? Do you even know what it takes? Do you think that you might? Come on out. We'll find out. We'll put you into an environment and situations where you're going to get to test that, but it's not going to be the end of you. And there'll be people standing right there with you doing the exact same thing. And we'll be here doing the exact same thing also to demonstrate that it's possible. Because everything you see here, we built all this. We did all of this. And we can teach you how to do the same on your piece of property.